You're listening to the Author Stories Podcast, bringing you the story behind the stories and the storytellers.
Margaret White,
Terry Brooks,
Sheena Kamal,
Matthew Quick,
J.T. Ellison,
Walt D. Williams,
Brad Thor,
Corey, Dr. O,
Brandon Sanderson,
Robin Mom,
Ernest Klein, Jim Butcher,
Sherwin Harris.
Visit hankgarner.com for archives of all the shows. Today's guest is
Benjamin Oliver.
Authors. I have a fantastic new service to tell you about. It's called PubSite. PubSite is a service to help you build your very own website, your home on the web, where you can promote your work and give your fans a place to connect with you. PubSite is a website platform that allows every author, regardless of budget, to have a great-looking professional website developed by the book marketing professionals at FSB Associates. PubSite is the new, easy-to-use DIY website builder developed specifically for books and authors. Whether you're an author of one book or 20, or a small publisher, PubSite allows you to build, design, and most importantly, update your website pain-free. No need to be dependent on a designer or webmaster to make a small but costly change to your website. Save the money and do it yourself. PubSite is the best platform for authors because it's a book-centric platform. PubSite was built just for authors and small publishers. Every design, feature, and layout is book-centric. They have customized designs for you to use. It's easy to build. No coding or HTML is necessary to create a stunning, professional-looking website with all the features you want. Get a custom domain name, yourname.com. It's simple to update. You can add all of your books, add a blog and a book tour, sell from any retailer, manage your email list and social media, and even do e-commerce. Build your website with a 14-day free trial, then pay just $19.99 per month, which includes hosting. And we offer packages starting at $499 to set up the website for you. Pub-site.com, the place to help authors find their home on the web. Beware the Chinaman by Stephen Taylor. The future is electric, but who holds the power? Sent by government agent Howard to pick up a stolen hard drive, Danny soon finds himself fighting for his life as he's chased across Europe by the mysterious and deadly Chinaman. The hard drive holds information to expose an organization called the Board, and its chairman wants it back. The Board's plan is to save the planet and gain global dominance through its ecological empire. The execution of the plan is by any means necessary. Beware the Chinaman, the new thriller by Stephen Taylor. Unleashing Iron, Book 3 of the Unwilling Souls series by Gregory D. Little, arrives April 24th and is available for pre-order now. Seslukani has one mission: keep humankind's murderous gods imprisoned. She's about to fail. The gods have achieved the unthinkable, inhabiting human avatars from within their prison's walls. They now gather followers and work to break it open from the outside. One of those avatars is Sess's own father. Just as all seems lost, Sess learns of a recently unearthed artifact so powerful that it can repair the prison and save her father from the possession that is killing him. But in the wrong hands, the artifact could demolish the prison instead of repairing it, and it's already been stolen. In a desperate race to control the object that will save or end the world, Sess faces a devastating choice as she realizes that no one is immune to the artifact's ancient promise of forgotten power. Not her family, not her friends, not even herself. Unleashing Iron is available for pre-order now. Order before April 24th to get the special sale price. Well, thanks for joining me again for the Author Stories Podcast, where I bring you the story behind the stories and the storytellers. Today, I am super excited to have Ben Oliver on the show with me today. He has an amazing new book. It's called The Loop. And this is the beginning of a new series. The first book is called The Loop, and the series is The Loop series, and I cannot wait to see where you take this, Ben. Welcome to the show.
Hi there. Thank you very much for having me.
You're so welcome. Ben, we begin each show with the same question, and that question is, what is your first memory of wanting to be a writer or storyteller?
Oh, that's a really good question. My first memory of wanting to be a writer or storyteller. Well, I remember being very, very young and reading Roald Dahl stories like, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and James and the Giant Peach. And I remember being so enamored and so caught up in these stories that I just wanted to be a part of it somehow. So I remember rewriting them and changing the stories a little bit and putting myself into the stories and plagiarizing Roald Dahl, basically. So that my earliest memories are of just being blown away by the ability of writers to transport me to another world, really, and then wanting to do that myself.
Love it. Roald Dahl is such a such an imaginative writer, and I'm just thinking back to all of the fantastical worlds that he took us to as kids, and that's it's one of those things where his books are so multi-layered. They mean something to you in one way when you're a kid, and then as an adult you reread them and you're like, holy crap, I completely missed what the actual point of this was.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's did you have an experience like that, like going back later and thinking, oh man, I didn't even see what this was actually about?
Yeah, and I think that's like a testament to what a skillful writer he was, because when you're young, all you care about is the next plot point in the story and what's going to happen next to your favorite character, and Danny the Champion of the World, or whatever book you're reading by him. But when you reread it as an adult, or when you're a little bit older, you read the subtext and you see the themes and you see what he was really saying, and that's such a skill for a writer to be able to do, is to tell two stories at once, essentially. One, an action-packed, plot-driven story, and two, a deep hidden message that speaks to you on a different level. Yeah,
exactly. So Roald Dahl kind of opened your mind to the possibility of telling stories. When did you start writing down things of your own and start exploring, characters and worlds and that sort of thing?
Well, like I said, early on, I was sort of doing fan fiction of Roald Dahl, but when it came time to decide that I really, really wanted to take this seriously, I was probably around 17, and I started writing short stories, and I was sending them out to magazines trying to get published. This was all inspired by Stephen King and his book On Writing. And all the advice in there about writing short stories and trying to get them published. And for about a year and a half, I would write these short stories, send them off, and just get rejections. And this took a long, long time. This took up a lot of my time and a lot of rejections. And that's sort of a theme of almost every writer's career, is get used to rejection, because it's going to happen a lot. But then when I was 18, I got my first short story published, and that was a real boost for me. Real kind of like, I don't know what you call it, like affirmation that I was like, yeah, maybe I'm okay at this, maybe I can do this. And I kept on writing. I got some more short stories published, and then I started trying to write novels, which I found very, very difficult at first. And I wrote a few novels and got rejected again and again. And then finally I wrote this book, The Loop, and I got an agent. And then, I guess the rest is history after that.
You're right. From writing short stories, the art of short story writing is different from writing novels, but there's a reason that so many people like Stephen King or Ray Bradbury recommended kind of cutting your teeth on short stories. What do you feel like that time writing short fiction did for your toolkit as a writer, and maybe your confidence even, or just about the craft of getting a story from beginning to end?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, writing a short story is a completely different discipline, but what it really teaches you is how to, well, for me anyway, taught me how to get theme into a story in a very succinct, very direct way. And that's a skill I really developed through short story writing, was You know, you decide what the story is, and you write it, and you'll start to see what underlying themes are there. It's all about drawing them out in this short space of time. Long form novel writings, it's all about developing characters and story arcs and pacing. But short stories, you get the story told as quick as you can, but you make sure you draw out those themes as thoroughly as you can and as succinctly as you can. So I think what it really taught me was how to draw a theme out of a story.
A lot of us have this dream, this desire to tell stories and to have, a book published, and seldom of us get to just, leave school and immediately step into the shoes of a writing career and it just be successful right away. And most of us, have things like, a place to live and food to eat and all of that we have to worry about. What did you decide to do career-wise that has, given you the freedom to pursue writing?
Again, early on, back when I was 17, 18 years old, trying to learn the craft of writing through short stories and then moving on to novel writing, I did a lot of bar work and working as waiting staff in a restaurant. I never wanted to go too far in any of these careers. I didn't want to get promoted to, head bar staff or manager, because it would take up too much of my time that I wanted to dedicate to writing. So I literally turned down promotions early on when I was very young, up to about 23, 24 years old. I'd say, no, I need to get home and write. I can't be taking my work home with me. After that, I had to start paying bills and pay rent and get out of debt. So I took a few more serious jobs, firstly as a support worker for young people with learning difficulties, and then more recently become an English teacher, which is something that, it does require a lot of mental energy and time. So yeah, like writing the loop required me to get up at about 5:30 in the morning so I could get into work 2 hours early so I could write before work started. It was really the only time I could get my writing done. So, as much as I finally decided to step up and take a career seriously, I still found time to write in amongst all of it.
As an English teacher, do you find yourself looking at your students and looking for that spark in one of them, that maybe someone noticed in you?
Yeah, actually, cool. This year, this term in school, I ran a creative writing competition for the school, and just the quality of some of the writing that came back was amazing, and some of them are way ahead of where I was at their age. So yeah, I've got a lot of faith and a lot of confidence in the future of writing, the future of storytelling. If these if they keep going down, if they decide to take it seriously and to do it as a career, then there's definitely lots of young people out there who have that gift and that ability.
Right. So tell me about the loop, Ben. What came to you first? Was it a character? Was it the setting? When a story first comes to you, does it come to you the same way? Do stories begin the same way with you, with a character or a setting or a what if question, or is every one different for you?
They tend to come to me in the form of a what if question. I think that's the most common way that I can remember all the ideas I've had coming to me. This one was, what if there was a group of young people in a death row prison, and for some reason they had to escape. But the idea of the prison, a death row prison for young offenders, that was just a big sort of light bulb moment. As dark and scary as that premise is, and as controversial as it is, that's kind of the reason I was drawn to it. There was just so much story in there and so much potential in that idea that I had to just run with it. But I think most of the time the ideas come to me in the form of a what if question.
Ben, I think I heard you say, and this is not a direct quote, so I'm going to butcher it, so please correct me. But you said something to the effect that science fiction allows us to look at our own society and, kind of play out the what ifs, or this is what we'll get if we stay on the path that we're on, or it was something to that effect. What are we looking at when we see a society that we find ourselves in the loop?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. Yeah, I do think that. I think the good science fiction is all about looking at where we are as a society and as a species and saying, where might this lead us? And certainly in my case, I like to look at what's the darkest timeline, what's the worst that could happen here. What we're looking at when we look at the world of the loop is people that have put all of their faith into technology and stopped thinking about, the humanity of decision making. It's just, in the world of the loop, we've basically handed over all of our power, all of our decision making, all of our judgment to artificial intelligence and said, okay, we trust you to make the decisions for us now. And that's a dangerous thing. It's a dangerous thing that we are sort of going towards. Especially if you take into account the theories of like the singularity, when artificial intelligence might become fully sentient, and what if it decides that humanity is a threat? What might it do? What things might it put in place to destroy humanity? So yeah, it's really about looking down that path, as you said, that we're on, and saying, what if we put all of our faith in technology? What if we put all of our belief in technology and look at it almost like a god? What might happen? Right.
The strange thing is Ben, that we're living in the year 2020, and we're as a world, most of us are locked down in our homes and trying to stay away from each other. During this pandemic that's running rampant over the world. Yet here you and I are probably 3,000 miles or better apart, talking about this book, and technology has brought us together in ways that never would have been possible before our present time. Yet we enjoy the benefits of the technology while being able to look at the dark side of this. That it's this weird dichotomy of this thing is making our lives better, and at the same time has the potential to take us to a dark place. Like, how do we balance our love of technology and our love of the things that it does for us while being cognizant of where it could take us?
Yeah, it's a really good point and a really good question. I mean, technology, 99% of technology is great, especially in the field of medical science, for example, where it helps people live longer, it can cure diseases and things like that. And obviously for communication and social media, it's great to a certain extent, but that's kind of the insidious nature of it. Is we focus so much on look how amazing this is, look how great it is, that sometimes we forget about the data mining and the surveillance that also comes along with it. It's the 1% of technology that I'm looking at, the scary part that could lead down a dark path. But yeah, I mean, generally speaking, I don't want to sound like a complete technophobe, because I think it's fantastic, especially as I said in the field of medical science. But I also think that humans were so generally so driven by profit and greed that sometimes we're willing to overlook, certain things. I mean, for example, Google's motto used to be, I think, something like "Don't be evil" or "Don't do evil." And at some point, after they started mining data and surveilling people, and they got rid of that, quietly got rid of their motto, and they don't speak of it anymore. Which is
sometimes the things we don't say are more powerful than the things we do.
Exactly.
Oh, so scary. The loop, we're introduced to a character named Luca Kane. Luca is a fantastic character. He's 16 years old. It's actually his birthday when we meet him. Where did Luca come from, and why is Luca in the loop?
Luca, yeah, he's the book is written in the first person, so it's Luca's voice telling the story. And he just sort of existed as soon as I started writing it. He was just there. I didn't really have to, even his name, quite often when it comes to character names, I'm scrolling through databases of interesting names and trying to find, but he was just Luca Kane, and I could picture him straight away, and his voice was there straight away. I don't know, I didn't have to try hard with him at all. He was just, which is great as a writer, when a character is just fully formed and appears and starts telling you the story. It's a fantastic feeling and a great experience. Yeah, he's in the loop for a crime, which I don't know if I'm trying to think if I can go into it. I think it's quite late in the book that we find out, so it might be a spoiler. But yeah, he's in there. He's in there for a serious crime, let's just say.
And people that find themselves in this situation, these are underage, teenagers, and they're on death row. There's an execution which is imminent. But you've created this really cool plot device where they can hold off the execution. Tell us about this wrinkle that you came up with.
Yeah, it's almost a justification for the technology to put teenagers and kids in prison, and it's the idea of the delay. Each inmate has an execution date, which they can choose to push back 6 months by taking part in scientific and medical experiments. And these experiments are for the benefit of the elite and the rich in society. And obviously every single one of them, or almost every single one of them, chooses to take the delays and take the risk of these experiments rather than certain death. And it's a kind of a way for the artificial intelligence to justify their incarceration and their death penalty, by saying, look, they're providing a service to society by taking part in these medical and scientific experiments.
It's such an interesting way of looking at, the things that we experience in the loop are almost magnifications of things that we see and experience in the world right now. There are people that think that they are more powerful and more deserving than everyone else, and they think they can push people around and can have an inequitable life, and then, like you said, with the role of science fiction is to show us where this can lead. How far in the future is this book set?
I never really state in the book how far ahead it is. I never give it a year or a date, but I picture about 150 to 200 years in the future. There's been a Third World War in the interim at some point, so yeah, there's a good amount of time that's passed.
Right. When I think when I got the first copy of this book, it was a month or two ago. And, you start thinking about things like a global disruption. Like, how can something like this happen? You're like, well, there's a Third World War. There's some sort of global disruption that allows things like this to happen and allows us as a society to go places that we never would have thought. And then we're sitting here now and we're kind of in the middle of a global disruption now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you ever catch yourself looking and going, I wasn't trying to prophesy. I wasn't trying to set things in motion. It's pretty scary for science fiction writers sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, God, this is, like you said, this is a major global disruption that's affecting almost every country in the world right now. And this is the kind of thing that can set about some massive change for either good or bad. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I wasn't trying to. I certainly wasn't trying to prophesize this. I really wasn't. Yeah, I mean, these massive disruptions to, like I said, a lot of humanity's decisions are based on money and greed. And right now, global markets are taking a massive hit, and we don't know what greedy people might do to try and assuage that or try and change that. So, yeah.
The book is classified as YA. Our protagonist is a teenager, a young adult, as it were. Do you think about those types of designations when you're writing? Luca's 16 years old, so he's going to see the world in a certain way, and through certain eyes. His experiences are going to be informed by his 16 years on the earth. Do you think about the audience when you're writing, or is it just, this is completely informed by who Luca is?
Mostly I'm thinking about Luca, the main character. I think I choose to write young adult fiction because of, when I was that age, somewhere around 16, maybe 13 to about 17, that's when books really meant the most to me, and I could really get lost in a book at times when I needed to get lost in a book or I needed an escape. So I think that's why I write this kind of fiction. Is I'm trying to write kind of the book that a 14-year-old me would have liked, would have been obsessed with, and trying. So that's why I don't really think too much about the audience when I'm writing. I think only about the characters and the situation and what's going to happen next.
Sure. You had some pretty exciting news early on in the process, in the publishing process of this book. The book, which is just came out, it has already been optioned for television. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, yeah, that was very, very unexpected, and it was just one of the craziest days of my life. Really, I was actually working at the time, and I was in the staff room, and I got a call from my agent, and I took it. She said, "Listen, there's an Emmy award-winning producer of Black Mirror who wants to option The Loop for television," and I was like, "Yes, just give it to her for free. I don't care, whatever." And yeah, it was. Then I had to go teach a class and talk about past participles and Oxford commas, and I had no idea really why my head was not in that lesson at all. The kids were getting away with murder that day because I was just thinking about this unbelievable stroke of luck, essentially. Because I'm very well aware that there are many authors that go their whole careers and don't get a chance like this, or don't get their work optioned for television. So, yeah, I know how lucky I am that the manuscript for my unpublished book at the time happened to land in the hands of somebody who really it resonated with, and they decided they wanted to, try to take it to the small screen, which is, it still blows my mind thinking about it. It's amazing.
Well, and for that caliber of a person to be interested, the Black Mirror has been, phenomenal television for the last couple of seasons, and doing imaginative, inventive stuff that's got to. I mean, before people even get to read the book, and that it's out there, that has to, publishing is such a weird thing, and you never know how books are going to be received, and if people are going to love it or hate it or fall somewhere in the middle. That had to be a pretty nice ego boost.
Yeah, it really was. It really was. I think writers by their very nature are very insecure. I certainly am. I know sure. Most of the writers I know were very sort of, I don't know why that is, but so many writers are like that. And just there's a lot of self-doubt involved in writing, and it's an industry that is 99% rejection, and you're basically just hoping for that tiny chance that somebody might like it, and then all of a sudden somebody like this producer comes along and says, "This is really good, and I want to be a part of it." You're right; it is an ego boost, and like I said, it was the craziest day of my life, and it's all a bit of a blur. But I'm really grateful and really glad and lucky that this situation arose.
Sure. We know that this book, the first one, is the first in a series. Can you talk about what, how much more do you have planned, and did you conceive this as a series from the beginning?
I didn't actually think of it as a series when I first started. Like I said, it was just that what if question that was in my head, and I sat down and I started writing. I was probably halfway through book one when I realized there's so much more of this story to tell that I don't think it's going to be a one book thing. And then when I got to the end, the story came to a natural kind of pause point, but there was so much left of the story to tell. There was so much that the characters hadn't figured out yet that I had to keep going with it. So I've already written book 2. Me and my editor are working on that right now, trying to make it as good as we can. And I have an idea for where book 3 is going to go, but like I said, I never really plot too far ahead, so it may surprise me yet. So.
Well, speaking of that, do you consider yourself much of a plotter? Are you a pantser, or do you kind of fall somewhere in between and embrace both sides of that?
I think I'm about 90% a pantser. I think what I usually think is I'm about 3 pages ahead of myself when I'm writing, never much more than that. So I'm writing and I know where I'm going for the next 3 pages, and then a character will do something and change that completely. Or I never really. Sometimes an end, like at some point in the writing process, an end point will sort of pop into my head, and I'll be like, okay, I think that's the kind of the direction I'm aiming for. But even that can change when I'm writing. And it's great when it does, because, like if I can surprise myself, then hopefully I can surprise the readers too.
Right. Well, when you start bringing in, things like film rights, does that affect the long-term planning for the book series? Did those types of discussions happen when you have the film rights that are sold so early in the process?
There's often people asking for an outline of books 2 and 3 and what's going to happen next, so that you can try and sell it to different markets or whatever. But and I have written, before I even knew what book 2 or 3 was going to be, I've written outlines that have ended up being nothing like what books 2 and 3 are going to be. But I just had to hand something in, and I kind of said to the producers and the foreign rights sales department, like, look, these books probably won't end up being like this, and they'll just give us something, it'll be okay. So they're very understanding of my writing process, as annoying as it must be for them.
It's fantastic. Well, Ben, I absolutely loved this book. It's such a breath of fresh air. With the YA stuff that's being published now, we definitely have a need for a book like this, and I think it's going to entertain lots and lots of people. There's links to it in the show notes of this episode. The Loop, book 1. If people are just discovering you and want to learn more about you, is there a place where they can connect with you online, Ben?
Mostly I'm on Twitter. I keep meaning to set up a website, but I haven't done it yet. But I'm at Benjamin Oliver, and the O in Oliver is a 0. One day I'll set up a website, but right now that's where I'm tweeting about book 2, and I'll do a cover reveal eventually and some giveaways and things. So
great. Well, we'll be sure to link your Twitter account in there so that people can follow you and stay up to date on everything going on with the Loop. Ben, it's been so much fun getting to chat with you. Thank you so much for taking time to come on the show today.
Thanks very much for having me. It's been great.
Before We Ever Spoke by Dan Largent. Cleveland, Ohio, 2006. After a chance encounter, 3 people soon find out that life can sometimes thrust us into the public eye, even when taking great measures to avoid it. Cooper Madison was the best pitcher in baseball after being drafted number 1 overall in 1996 from the small Gulf Coast town of Pass Christian, Mississippi. 1 year after announcing his sudden and shocking retirement, he finds himself seeking anonymity in Cleveland, Ohio. Kara Knox is the youngest sibling to 3 older brothers. After a tragic work accident to her closest relative, she has built up a tough exterior as she begins her final year of college at Cleveland State University. Jason Knox, Kara's oldest brother, is the lead detective on Cleveland's Edgewater Park killer case. After months without a suspect, he's feeling the heat from his media-hungry chief. Serendipity intervenes, and all 3 learn that perception and reality are paths that rarely ever intersect. Before We Ever Spoke by Dan Largent. Hey folks, you really ought to check out Patricia Gillam's Heroes of Corvus series. Book 1 is called A Superhero's Duty. A fight between a second-generation superhero named Red Bolt and a villain for hire named Icarus goes terribly wrong, resulting in the drowning deaths of 3 innocent civilians and orphaning a 6-year-old boy.
Racked with guilt, Red Bolt visits Cameron Wilson at the hospital every night and won't leave the boy's side until he falls asleep. Befriended by a night shift nurse, the man in costume begins to disclose what really happened after the fight and why he feels the death of Cameron's parents and sister fall on his actions. A superhero didn't survive that night, and Cameron and the rest of the city are not out of danger. A Superhero's Duty, Book 1 of the Heroes of Corvus by Patricia Gillam. Get this series now.